What is up, guys? My name is Lex. As you can see, we are here at the Lodge in Round Rock, Texas to play a live stream poker game, a big poker game today. It's $25.50 with $100 straddles, $200 straddles, some well-known poker players at the table, along with some players who I've never played with before. It's a big game. Some huge pots come about. I buy in for $15,000 to start. Let's go. It actually takes me 14 hands to play a significant pot. I got dealt in trash early on. Under the gun +1, I've got King 10 offsuit. Nick game is on, so I've got to win a hand. I raised to $150 before getting 3-bet in the cutoff by Mariano. A little bit light there, buddy. 9-7 offsuit. Okay. He makes it $500 to go back over to T1000 in the big blind, who calls. I decided to make the call as well, which I don't really like. I definitely think a 4-bet would be good here, given the fact that Mariano should have a pretty wide range in the cutoff, and this game is pretty small for him. He's probably blasting off trying to win a hand, but I like to just call. We go 3 ways to a Queen, Jack, 8, 2-club board. I flop good. Open-ended straight draw, 1 over card to the board. Checks to Mariano, the initial 3-better, and he checks back. Turn card, 3 of diamonds, now brings in 2 flush draws. T1000 checks. I'm going to go with a check raise strategy here if Mariano bets again, but he checks. So now I'm left with trying to hit one of my outs, and I do not. The board pairs Jack of spades on the river. I'm left with king high, T1000 checks. I could turn my hand into a bluff to try to get my opponents off an ace high hand, like ace king, ace 10. But I check multi-way, and now Mariano, who checks back the flop and the turn, fires out a bet of $1,000. T1000 folds his ace high, and the action's back over on me. I actually tank for a long time here before I make my decision. His hand doesn't make too much sense when he bets on the river. I would expect him to just check back an 8x hand a lot of the time. I think maybe he could be going for value with pocket nines. I don't think he ever has a jack, because I think a jack would always be betting the turn once checked to twice. It is possible he could be turning an ace high hand into a bluff, so if I call with king high, we could lose to that, but I think a lot of the time he's going to have hands like 6-7, hands like 9-7 suited like he has, or he's going to have an 8 or pocket nines. It was a close spot, but ultimately I decided to fold, let it go, and we get bluffed by 9 high. I played a lot of live streams in my life. I've played here at the Lodge a couple times, and I also just played a huge game at Hustler, but for some reason I was pretty nervous and anxious before this game, and even during the game as well, so I decided to get myself a beer just to kind of lighten the mood, kind of loosen me up a little bit, kind of curb that anxiety. And it was helping a little bit leading into this next hand where Mo limps. Mariano races to 400, and in the straddle with an ante, I think my hand is an easy complete. Also with the Nick game on as well, I'm trying to win a pot. 3 ways now to Queen, 6-9 rainbow. Flopping a gut shot straight draw. Action checks to Mariano, who checks this one back. Turn card 5 of spades. I decided to lead out on this turn card after Mariano checks back the flop, and Mo limp called pre-flop. I don't think he's going to connect too strong with this board, so I make it $600 to go. Now over here on Mo Money, who is actually an Olympic wrestler way back in the day. I asked him what weight, and it was around 145 or 150 pounds, which is the exact weight that I wrestled in college. Mo's a pretty tough guy. He makes the call, Mariano makes the fold. Heads up now to the river, which is a beautiful 8, giving me a straight. Now it is a one-liner to any 7 making a straight, but we have 7-10, giving us the second nuts, only losing to Jack 10. I now get tricky here and check over to Mo. I feel like this is the best way to extract value, and it does work, inducing a bluff by Mo to $1,400. Now I think a lot of the time he's going to be bluffing with middling pairs, trying to get me off a queen or his missed flush draws, but sometimes he's going to have a 7 for a worse straight. He's going to have 2 pairs and sets, so I got to raise with the second nuts. I make it $5,000 to go. Springing the trap. Obviously, as you guys can see, Mo just has a pair of 5s. Nothing he can do. He folds. I show the table. I get rid of my Nick game button. I win this first pot, $2,000 of profit going my way. Halfway through my first Corona, and I'm already feeling more relaxed. The anxiety is leaving. I'm feeling locked in, ready to go. There's a couple calls. I just check my option in the $100 strata with Jack 5 offsuit and flop 2 pair on Jack 5-8. My hand is strong but super multi-way and a limped pot. I do have to tread with caution. I check, Mo Money checks, F and Bob checks, and now Mariano, who over-limped pre-flop, bets out $300. Now, I don't think he's going to have a strong hand on this board very often. He would raise pre-flop with hands like 8s, pocket 5s, pocket jacks, and all of his Jack X holdings I feel like he would raise pre-flop, so I think a lot of the time he's going to have an 8, a 5, maybe a gut shot straight draw, maybe a flush draw, or just maybe a complete airball bluff. With 2 pair against that range, I'm going to raise right away. I make it $1,100 to go. Back over to Mariano, who does have a monster with top pair, top kicker, makes the call. We are ahead, but we're going to have to fade some outs, and the turn card, 9 of spades, is not my favorite card. Brings in a lot of straights. Obvious flush draw gets there, and if he somehow has Jack 9, yeah, that's beating us too. So I think this 9 of spades is the worst card in the deck for us, which means I'm going to check. Now, I could balance this out by checking sometimes with straights that I made on the turn, and also checking with some strong flushes as well, trying to induce a bluff. Well, Mariano does have a monster, top pair, top kicker, and the nut flush draw, and he elects to bet $1,400. Now, I don't really like this. I'm losing to all those hands I stated earlier, but with 2 pair, we are still beating hands like Ace Jack, King Jack, Queen Jack, and maybe some bluffs that he is deciding to pull. So I make the call, and the river card, even worse, counterfeiting me with another 9. Pretty bad run out for us. I check over to Mariano. He snap checks back. I show 2 pair, and he shows a better 2 pair. A little bit tilting. We were far ahead on the flop. We were even ahead on the turn. He got there on the river with the counterfeit, and we lose this $5,000 pot. As you can see here, I have an $11,000 stack, so I decided to add on for $10,000 more, and what great timing it is when I look down at a monster on the button. Hijack makes it 250, Elliott in the cutoff makes it 600, pocket kings for us on the button. Doesn't get too much better than that. Now, sometimes I could just flat here, disguising the strength of my hand and maybe inducing a 4-bet by T1000, but I think a 4-bet is definitely the best option. Try to get value from your best hands. Pre-flop, and I raise to $1,600. Now Mariano has not folded yet in the $100 straddle. He thinks for a little bit of time, and I'm thinking to myself, if this guy re-raises me, I'm going to close my eyes and ship it all in. I'm not going to let him beat me again like last time at Hustler when he bluffed me with Queen Deuce offsuit when I had pocket kings, but Mariano decides to cold call this 4-bet out of position, which I thought was really surprising at the time. I've been watching him for years now and haven't seen him cold call many 4-bets out of position. I think that's going to be hands like middling pocket pairs, like pocket 9s through pocket jacks. Maybe he can have some traps in there with aces or kings or ace-king suited. I'm honestly not really sure what his cold call range in the straddle versus a 4-bet on the button is. Anyway, back over to Elliott, who 3-bet pre-flop. He covers me with over $30,000 in a stack. He says, let's play a pot, and flicks in a $1,000 chip. So we've got over $5,000 in the middle 3 ways in a 4-bet pot in position to 673 rainbow. No ace on the flop, no queen or jack for my opponents to hit a set. All in all, I love this board. When the action checks to me, I definitely want to be betting, trying to get some value from worse pocket pairs and also to deny some equity from those ace-x hands. Make it $3,000. Mariano snap folds back over to Elliott, who thinks and thinks, and then grabs a handful of banana chips and puts them into the middle and raises me to $10,000. Wow, what a sick spot. Hand number 42. I cold 4-bet pre-flop, bet big on this flop, and get raised huge by my opponent. He just always has his beat here, right? He must always have aces, a set, or 2 pair, or a straight. I just don't see my kings ever being good in this situation. I think for a little bit of time and decide to fold. Who got bluffed on a live stream? You guys did. No way I'm ever folding here, but the question is, do we just call 10,000 or do we just move all in? And I decide to just go with it here. Once he puts in 10K, I don't think he's ever folding, so I go all in for $18,000. It's $8,000 more for him to call. In a 4-bet pot, I don't really want to call and have a scare card come out on the turn like an ace, a king, or a queen, or a jack. If he puts in $10,000, I just don't think he's ever folding on this flop, so I move all in for 18K. Back over to Elliot, who is in a nasty spot. After tanking for over 3 minutes, Elliot decides to make a disciplined fold and let go of his pocket tens, which I was surprised of. I mean, I went all in on the flop thinking that once he raises to 10K, he's just never going to be folding for 8K more, but he makes a good laydown. We end up taking down over $13,000 worth of profit. Obviously, I could have just called that $10,000 raise and maybe have gotten it all, but who knows? Maybe the turn card was a 10, an ace, a king, or a queen, and would kill my action. Either way, big pot going our way, and now we are up over $9,000. Started off a little bit bad, losing some pots, but the biggest profit so far on the day. Alright, next up here, T1000 raises to $250 over a $100 straddle. I have pocket eights in the hijack. I decided to 3-bet here. I don't really want to go multi-way out of position with this hand and make it $800. Mo, who had just won a pot, decides to get in there in the cutoff with a cold call of my 3-bet back over to T1000, who makes the call as well. 3 ways sandwiched in between these guys to ace, queen, 6. T1000 checks, 2 overcards to my pair, I check, and Mo puts out a small bet of $700. Once T1000 calls his $700 bet, the action's back over on me. Given this action, 2 overcards to my pair, easy fold for me, until I start thinking, you know what, I could potentially turn my hand into a bluff. I can have all the strong hands on this board, pocket aces, pocket queens, ace queen, ace king, and my opponents can really never have those hands. I feel like this could be a merge play where I will raise, and sometimes I get better hands to fold. Hands like ace deuce, ace 3, king queen, queen jack, all those hands might fold to a raise, and also I could potentially get called by worse hands like king 10 and jack 10 for straight draws. So I decided to go for it here. I make it $2,200 to go, representing those big strong hands on this board. Mo pretty quickly makes the call, which is not what I was looking for. I was hoping Mo was just taking a stab on the flop with a pocket pair, a gut shot, a 6, or a bluff, and he would fold, but once he calls, and then also JC calling, I'm just going to shut this one down, but I did get one person to call with a worse hand, which was JC, and I actually think Mo probably could have folded his ace-9 a majority of the time, but it's Texas and it's Mo money. He's never going to be folding top pair, so when the turn does not improve me, I check. Mo goes all in, and I have an easy fold. Probably a hand I could just fold on the flop, save myself $2,000, but I like to go with my gut, go with my reads. I felt like my opponents weren't that strong, which they weren't that strong. Unfortunately, I just could not get Mo to fold out top pair. Did a little merge play as I was explaining right now to the table. Didn't work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Move on to the next hand. Very interesting spot up next. I check my option in the straddle, go 5 ways in a limped pot to king 6-4, flopping bottom and top 2 pair. Not bad. I bet out $300 into $550. Mo calls with his ace. I can't even get this guy to fold out ace-9 on a king 6-4 board. What am I doing trying to bluff Mo? Dylan makes the call as well with his second pair. And now Elliot is sitting with the same exact hand as me. So far this session, I have raised Elliot. I went all in against Elliot, and he folded pocket tens. He may be trying to get some revenge here, and he does decide to bump it up to $2,600. And I'm actually in a pretty sick spot. This is a limped pot, super multi-way. I bet out into 5 people, and now he's raising to a huge sizing of over $2,000 more. This is a super strong line. I contemplate just pitching my hand right away given the fact that I'm only in the pot for $300, but 2 pair with the king of clubs, it's just too strong to fold. Also, Elliot could be doing this with hands like king 10, king jack, king queen, thinking that all of us are out of line calling this $300 bet. I'm in position, I'll just tread lightly on the turn and see what happens. Other players fold, we go heads up, $6,000 in the middle to the ace of hearts on the turn. Now, if he did have king jack, king 10, king queen, he would definitely not continue to bet on this ace of hearts, especially once I call his big $2,000+ raise on the flop. So if he bets here again, it's going to be a pretty nasty spot, but I'll probably have to call depending on the sizing. But the sizing he chooses is something I was not expecting. He decides to go all in for $18,000, a 3x pot size jam.
From our stream sponsor. As Elliott goes all in for 18,800.
I mean, guess you got 6-6. Jeez, I fold.
And there's the fold.
Folded 2 pair.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and here. He's going to have to show.
Which 2 pair you have?
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Oh.
Mariano, you never played this game before?
Wait a second.
Thank you, Mariano.
Mariano just reminded him he has to show.
6 spot there. I just cannot be calling a 3x pot size jam with middle and bottom 2 pair. Nice hand by Elliott getting me off the chop. When he was going to fold his cards, Mariano made a noise which reminded him to show his cards, which is against the Nick game rules. You cannot remind someone to show their cards. So Mariano has to pay a $100 splash pot into the next hand. We get into a similar situation as we were before. T1000 raises to 300. Elliott re-raises next act to $800, and the action's on me, not with pocket kings this time, a hand slightly worse. Okay, a lot worse. Ace-10 offsuit, but I feel like this is a great spot to put in a 4-bet bluff. Last time I did this with pocket kings. This time I'm doing it with a bluffing hand. I have an ace blocker blocking aces and ace-king. It's a late position open and a late position 3-bet. My opponents can definitely be wide here. Also, if I'm going to do it with my strong hands, I also want to have some bluffs in there as well to be difficult to play against. Back over to Elliott, who is facing this 4-bet by me. It's not too much more for him to call, $1,300 more. He's out of position, but we have a lot of money left to play for. He has a suited queen. He decides to make the call. We go heads up to an ace-high board. I bet, and Elliott folds. I win this pot, and I get to get rid of my Nick game button. With blinds at $25.50, $100 straddle, $200 double straddle, there's a raise in the hijack to $500, and I'm on the heater here with pocket kings again. I re-raised to $2,000. Elliott probably thinks I'm getting out of line. I've already re-raised him 3 times in a matter of about 10 minutes. Back over to him with a beautiful Jack-10 of spades. He definitely doesn't want to be 4-betting a hand this strong. You just want to see a flop, which is what he decides to do. And we see a queen high board. He checks, I bet, and again, he folds. I decided to be nice and show him my cards that I had the goods, and we take down another pot.
With regards to the stream, the plan is to have a studio
Any information
similar to this one in San Antonio. That is the plan, ultimately. It takes a while.
I've now reached a high point of profit, up $11,400. This is pretty nice because just last month I lost over $50,000 taking a shot at a big game at Hustler Casino Live in Los Angeles, California. Hopefully we can keep this up and continue with this heater. The pre-flop graphics get a little messed up in this hand. Low Jack Mariano raises with 4-3 of hearts, and Clue re-raises in the cutoff to $900. So far this session, this has happened a bunch where Mariano raises and Clue re-raises. Sometimes he has shown some medium to weak hands. So when I have Ace-Jack of diamonds in the big blind, I think this is a spot where I definitely want to put in another raise versus both of these players who are known to be quite wide pre-flop, and with the stand-up game on, Ace-Jack of diamonds is a monster. So I cold 4-bet here out of position to $2,500 to go, and this is when the hand gets weird. The action's on Mariano, but Clue calls out of turn, not knowing that Mariano was still in the hand. Just to summarize the action because the graphics are wrong, Mariano races to 300, Clue re-races to 900, I cold 4-bet to 2,500, and the action's on Mariano, but Clue calls my $2,500 4-bet out of turn, which gives Mariano perfect information about what Clue is going to do. This is really unfortunate for me because Mariano now knows that Clue does not have a top-tier hand that he's willing to 5-bet jam all in with, like aces, kings, queens, ace-king. Given the fact that Clue just called my $2,500 bet out of turn, Mariano can assume he doesn't have those hands, which means Mariano can do a few things. Mariano can call, knowing that Clue will just call behind him, when if Clue didn't act out of turn, Mariano would have no idea if Clue would fold, call, or jam all in. This also gives Mariano some knowledge that Clue does not have a top-tier hand, which could potentially let him put in another light re-raise. Mariano decides to go with the 5-bet with the 4-3 of hearts versus a cutoff 3-bet and a big blind 4-bet, which is never a play unless you know that the cutoff player does not have a top tier hand. He makes it $5,500 to go. Super unfortunate spot for me because if Clue had not called out a turn, Mariano would never be 5-betting in this spot with 4-3 of hearts. Clue actually has a big hand with pocket jacks, but facing a cold 4-bet and then a 5-bet by Mariano, he decides to fold and I fold too.
Lays it down.
All right, let's make sure we act in turn because I feel like it's possible that influence some action. We'll see. I don't know.
Mariano's going to show the 3-4.
Let's try to make sure we act in turn, please. Thank you.
I actually, like, the chips are black. I just,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
I get pretty steamed up here when I see Mariano's hand, knowing that he used the information of Kevin calling out a turn to put in a 5-bet with a trash hand, but he didn't do anything wrong. He was just going with the information he was given. Also, Kevin just made an honest mistake, but it still doesn't make me any less tilted.
Did I do something wrong? I don't think you did. I don't think so.
I missed it, but it looked like Clue might have acted out of turn there last time and to give.
He called out of turn.
Oh, he called your 3-bet out of
Yeah.
turn? Ah, that sucks.
No, this is raise.
I mean,
And I thought he folded already.
You
for
thought
what
he
it's
folded.
worth, Lex.
I
was
didn't
planning
see.
on
I didn't see
raising.
his cards, and he has black.
I mean, if that's, I guess I believe it. I don't know if I believe it though.
Yeah, like I'm more incentivized to do that now that I know he's not.
Yeah,
serious.
I don't know. I mean,
I get it.
I mean, I think
would-
you were
Jack-
still gonna do it anyways.
I
You don't just
understand.
you don't
no,
sit
but
around.
what
And,
Lex is saying has a point. Like I'm
Yeah.
more likely to do it now because.
well, if you had like ace queen, it would make sense, but 3-4 doesn't make sense. But I don't know. Whatever.
Well, it's my great grandmother's favorite hand. So.
Just to be clear, Mariano did nothing wrong here. He just used the information he was given. Obviously, Clue acting at a turn is not good, but accidents happen at the poker table. Let's just try to move on to the next hand. To add to the tilt, I also lost a nit game here, $700, leaving my stack and going to my opponents.
$100 to each player.
That's fine. I just gave you a lot.
Paying yourself.
Yeah. I say myself. Wait. Let me hold on to this one more hand.
Yeah.
I want to be shamed.
Yeah, we used to play it like that. You have to keep your knit.
Lexo wearing the.
Even if the game.
Oh, don't. Lexo keeping his knit button to shame himself.
Same exact situation where Mariano races to 300, Clue re-raises again to $900, and I'm in the $100 strata with ace-2 offsuit. Easy fold versus regular nitty players, but not against loose, aggressive players who could be opening wide and 3-betting wide. I decided to go for it here. I make it $2,700 to go. I've got an ace blocker, like I said before, and also, without Clue acting out a turn, Mariano is going to have to play pretty face up with Clue behind him. Feel like Clue can definitely be getting out of line, as well as Mariano, given the fact that Mariano raised from early position last time with 3-4 hearts. Well, unfortunately, Mariano does have the goods here with ace-king offsuit. He elects to just cold call this 4-bet. Clue makes a good fold in turn this time with 8-5 offsuit, and we're going heads up to a flop out of position in a 4-bet pot, which I flop a gut shot on 6-3-5. Now, I should have all the big overpairs here, aces, kings, and queens, and jacks, and given the fact that Mariano just cold called my 4-bet, I don't think he really ever has aces, kings, and queens. I think he would always put in a 5-bet with those hands. So I'm going to c-bet here. I make it $1,800 to go, and Mariano makes the call. Well, this 4-bet bluff did not work out. We were hoping to get this one down pre-flop. Once called, I was hoping to potentially get him to fold out some queen high, jack high, or king high hands on the flop, but once he calls this flop bet, I just don't think he's ever folding any hand here. So I give up and check on the turn, and then the river pairs the board. I could potentially go with an over pot size bet here, trying to get him off an ace high hand, or potentially pocket sevens or pocket eights, but I think Mariano is just too rich to fold pocket pairs in a 4-bet pot versus me. So I give up, I check, he checks back, and he wins with ace king versus my ace 2. Another pot going Mariano's way. Kind of some frustrating spots. I tried to make a move earlier with pocket eights, it didn't work. I tried to make a move earlier with ace jack of diamonds, and that didn't work. And then again with ace deuce offsuit, that didn't work. I went from up $11,000 to now just about even on the session. I feel like every time I play a big game, it is a learning experience for me. What I learned in this session was that I've just put a little bit too much pressure on myself. So I've been trying to push myself to play bigger games this last year. I've been playing games that are way out of my comfort zone to try to play bigger pots for my vlog, to try to win more money for my vlog, to try to get into better spots and better games so that I can continue to grow my poker career. I'm a very competitive person. I want to win. I want to do my best. I want to try to play bigger and better. I came here to the lodge to play an awesome, huge game. I came here to the lodge to play huge pots, win or lose, and I was pretty frustrated at this point because I've been playing for 5 hours and I really just didn't get into any interesting spots. I had one decent sized pot with pocket kings, but other than that, I was just folding. I was trying to make some moves and they weren't working. I was even on the day and it kind of felt like a waste, which is not true. Obviously, every game is a learning experience, but for some reason I was pretty frustrated at this point. I was definitely slightly tilted, frustrated, a little bit let down. I mean, I only have 5 or 6 hours to make things happen and the cards just were not going my way, but this is where it comes back to putting too much pressure on myself. I cannot control the cards I get. I cannot control the lineup. I cannot control how the cards are going to fall for me. All I have to do is just try to play my best and try to make every best decision I can. So it's definitely a learning experience playing this game, something that I want to try to work on in the future. I do end up finally winning a pot after like 2 or 3 hours of not winning a pot here with King 8 of hearts against Mariano's 6-7 of clubs, leading into the last few hands of the night. At this point in the stream, I believe Mariano was stuck over $50,000 and was definitely getting after it with some raises and some re-raises. So when Mo raises and Mariano 3-bets for like the 17th time of the day, I've got King Queen offsuit in the $100 straddle. I feel like it's a spot where I can definitely put in another raise pre-flop, which I felt like I've said a lot. This time it's not a bluff though. This is for value. King Queen offsuit versus Mo and a crazy Mariano is definitely going to be the best hand a lot of the time. And as you can see, I have them both completely crushed. Mo has Queen 10, Mariano with Queen 3. So I cold 4-bet here to $3,000. Mo Money hates to fold. He loves to see flops and he makes the call. Mariano has got a suited king. He makes the call as well, and we're going 3 ways. King Queen offsuit dominating our opponents in a 4-bet pot to a terrible jack high board. On this board, without a heart against 2 very sticky opponents, I'm not going to be putting in a c-bet. They could have easily flopped a set or top pair or flush draws. I check. Mo Money grabs for some chips, but checks. Mariano with his king high flush draw checks behind, and the turn's another heart. I'm completely done with this hand. I check. Mo Money bets, Mariano calls, and the river's another heart. Mariano ends up winning this one with King 3 of hearts. If you've been playing the drinking game of take a shot every time I say Mariano's name, you're probably blackout wasted by now. Well, Mariano raises again to $400. I've got ace-10 offsuit in the big blind, a hand I could call with or 3-bet. And I'm going to go with the aggressive route. Almost always on a live stream, I want to go with the aggressive route, play a bigger pot. I re-raise here to $1,500. With Mo left to act beside me, I think calling is actually the best option. I want to be playing some pots with Mo and not just going heads up against Mariano, but I take the aggressive route and make it $1,500. Back over now to Mariano with King Jack offsuit, and he doesn't want to play for $1,500. He wants to play for more. He wants to play for $4,000. Man, am I ever going to get a 3-bet bluff through? I should have known better though. This is Texas. Nobody likes to fold. But the question is now, do we call this 4-bet? Do we fold against this 4-bet? Or do we put in another raise? I think calling at a position with ace-10 offsuit for a $4,000 bet is a complete punt. So calling's out of the question. Folding seems reasonable and probably the best play, but it is Mariano. He's been raising and re-raising. He's down money. He probably wants to play a big pot. Also, he's got the knit game button. He could be raising wide. Ace-10 offsuit's a pretty good hand. I contemplate making it $10,000 or $12,000. 5-bet fold, 5-bet fold. and I decided to fold. I decided just to not go for it. Mariano has king jack offsuit, so he actually had a pretty good hand. Gets us to fold out a slightly better hand with ace high, and another pot not going my way. In classic Texas fashion, the triple straddles on. $25, $50, $100, $200, $400 straddle, and JC opens up the action on the button to $1,200. I'm in the big blind with a beautiful king jack of spades. Looks like frickin' aces compared to the hands I've been dealt in. With all this dead money in the pot versus an aggressive player raising on the button, I definitely want to put in another raise here, which I feel like I've said a lot in this vlog. I make it $4,200. Pretty sick how big this game is. Just one re-raise is almost $5,000 pre-flop. I started the hand with around 100 big blinds effective. So if JC calls here, I mean, if we flop top pair or flush draw, we're probably going to have to go for it. We could potentially play a $75,000 pot. T1000 looks back at his cards, looks over at me, and puts in the call for $4,200. Big pot brewing, one of the last hands of the night. I put on my Gucci shades to a flop of Queen 662 clubs. Yep, a complete and utter whiff. But I do have the range advantage. Can have aces, kings, queens, ace, queen. I think if I bet here, I can get him to fold out some ace-high hands and potentially double barrel on some nines, on some tens, and on some aces. So I start out with a bet here, 1/3 size of the pot. And luckily for me, finally, something goes my way in a big 3-bet or 4-bet pot. JC just has 10 high on this board. He misses as well. He folds, and we take down some profit. Around $4,000, one of the last hands of the night, which completes day number 1 here in Texas, 25-50. This was a really fun game. A lot of awesome players, talkative, exciting pots. Wish I could have played some bigger pots, but what can you do? I ended up winning a small profit, 34% VPIP for me, which I'm proud of considering the hands that I was dealt in. The stream ends up coming to a close. I end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. All right, guys, that is it for this one. Day number 1 at the lodge complete. Ended up winning $3,100 on this session. At one point, I think I was up over $10,000 and then just kind of bled down, lost some pots, raised and got re-raised. I re-raised and missed, and things just didn't really go my way by the end of the stream, but I still ended up winning $3,100. I do have an interesting story for you guys of how I got here. So I texted Skull Mike back in February of this year, and Skull Mike is the game runner. He is the guy who sets up all the lineups here at the lodge. I've known him now for a couple years, and I texted him and I said, hey, I'm interested in playing bigger games at the lodge if you guys have any. I want to play 50-100. I want to play 100-200. I want to get in there. I want to play some big pots. I want to play some deep stacked poker on a live stream. So I didn't really hear back from him for a few months until last Friday, basically exactly a week ago. I get a text from Mike, and he says, hey, we got some space open for a 25-50 game and a 50-100 game next weekend. Are you in? And of course, I've been waiting for this. I've been wanting to play bigger games this entire year. I just got back from Hustler. Hell yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. And I had to scramble. I kind of felt like I was in the minor leagues, getting called up to the major leagues, and I got to get everything ready within a week. So I had to get my flights ready, had to book some hotels, had to figure out how to get over $100,000 from Florida to Texas. So I'm working on that. I'm trying to get pet sitters for my dogs, and then I ran into a little bit of an issue. So you guys know that I have 2 dogs. I've got Rogue, who is the older dog, and then I've got River, who is the little puppy. River stays with a woman in Miami who fostered her before I got her. I take her there every single time I leave out of town, and River loves her, and it's just a great time for her. Rogue is a little bit more difficult. I've had Rogue now for 9 years, and he is a special dog. So he's super shy, he's super timid, and he's super afraid of people that he doesn't know. He doesn't trust many people. He won't let anybody come up and touch him. If I'm walking down the street and someone tries to touch him or pet him, he will not have it. He doesn't let people walk him. He's very scared, he's very fearful until he trusts you. If he trusts you, then he's good. He's the most loyal, amazing dog there is if he trusts you. But he only really likes a handful of people in the entire country. I mean, he's met a ton of people, and he doesn't really like that many people, which makes it a little bit difficult for me to get people to watch Rogue. So I have a few people in Florida that can watch him, but, you know, the list is kind of short because he's very shy, he's very timid. around people he doesn't know. So I've got a guy in Miami who I've known for years who Rogue trusts, and I usually have him watch him. So I text him, I go, hey, I'm going out of town next weekend, can you watch Rogue? And he texts me back, I'm busy, I can't watch him. So I'm like, that kind of sucks. Well, I got a few more people. So I text my other friend who Rogue is comfortable with, and I say, hey, I'm going out of town next weekend, can you watch Rogue? They can't do it. I text my other friend who's Rogue is comfortable with, and they can't do it either. So now I've gone through all the people who Rogue is comfortable with to watch Rogue, and nobody can do it. I don't know what to do with my dog. I'm about to go out of town for 3 days. I told Skull Mike I can play. I got my plane tickets ready, whatever, and I can't find anybody to watch my dog. So I have a few options here. One, I can text Skull Mike and cancel the game and tell him I can't make it because I don't have anyone to watch my dog. Now, I don't want to do that because I've been wanting to play these bigger games for a while. I've been waiting to get to this level for a long time, and you don't know when these opportunities will come up again. If I pass up on this game, you don't know 6 months from now if I try to get back in, he goes, oh no, it's full. A year from now, hey, can I get in? Oh no, sorry, we're full. So I didn't want to pass up on this opportunity. I wanted to get in there and play while I could. So that wasn't really an option for me to cancel on him. The other option could be to put Rogue into a kennel or a boarding place, which I don't trust. I put him in one of those places 3 years ago, and I picked him up after a day, and it looked like he hadn't been outside for like 12 hours, because when I took him outside, he peed and pooped super quick, and his pee was like dark brown. So he was super dehydrated. He didn't eat anything for a whole day. So I don't trust those places. I don't like the kennel places because he's too finicky. He's too special. He needs to be with somebody who he trusts. So I don't want to cancel on Mike. I don't want to, board him or kennel him. So I'm like, well, the other option is just to drive. I mean, it's a hell of a drive. It's like 18 hours from South Florida to Austin, Texas. But I'm like, is there any other option? No, I don't think so. So on Wednesday, me and this guy left in the car, and we drove from Florida, and I went to Mobile, Alabama, which took me 10 hours. And then I woke up the next day and I drove from Mobile, Alabama to Round Rock, Texas. It was about 18 hours of driving, but I did it. I made it here Thursday night, took a day off Friday, played the game today, and it was kind of cool. It was a little bit of a road trip. I haven't done a road trip. I have a great, nice new car. It was pretty relaxing. I'm also going to be making some stops on the way back. I'm going to Houston. I've never been there. Going to go to Beau Rivage. Never been there. And then I also have 2 big games at Best Bet in Jacksonville. So it was kind of crazy. Just got in my car and drove for 2 full days to get here, but I made it and I played the stream. But I felt on the stream today, I didn't have the best mental mindset. And I think I need to figure some stuff out. So what was going through my mind was I came all the way here to Texas. I bought in for a lot of money. I've got a lot of money behind me. I'm trying to play bigger pots. One of the reasons why I'm coming here is to play big pots, is to play exciting pots, is to get in there, make a big bluff, make a big call. And I felt like this entire stream, I just couldn't get too much going. I just felt like I didn't get that many cards to allow me to get in there and to even like mix it up. I was trying to mix it up with some bad hands, and I know, you could argue, well, if you're getting bad hands, you just got to make it happen with bad hands. Well, I also don't want to punt off my money. I don't want to get in there with 8-3 offsuit and just blast off 20K. I want to at least have a little bit of equity when I bluff and get in there. But I was pretty frustrated. I was a little bit tilted. I was a little bit annoyed. One, because I was up stuck. I mean, I was up like $10,000 and I kept losing. Anytime I 3-bet, I felt like I got 4-bet and I never had it. I never had queens or kings or ace king or whatever. And then if I tried to bluff, I would get rebluffed or someone would call me or whatever. So it was a little bit frustrating, but I need to have a better mindset in the fact that we're on TV, which is one. I don't want to be the guy that's complaining and whining. Although a lot of it's just kind of like joking around, like, oh my God, I can't win a hand, something like that. But I just don't really I didn't like my mental mindset today. I need to get a better mindset for tomorrow. I need to go in there and just think, look, I'm going to get the cards that I'm dealt, and I'm going to do the best I can with the cards I'm dealt. Doesn't matter if I go 4 hours without playing a big pot. Just play my best, play the cards I'm dealt. Don't worry about anybody else. Don't worry about trying to make a great YouTube video. Don't worry about trying to play a $100,000 pot, because all that was going through my head. All that was going through my head was, I drove frickin' 18 hours to get here, and now I'm getting Jack 4. I'm getting 9-3. I'm getting 8 deuce. I'm getting ace rag. And it's just like, oh my God, it was frustrating. But there's nothing you can do about that. You can't control the cards in poker. So something that I'm acknowledging and something I want to work on. I definitely felt the tilt brewing up a little bit. And I wasn't even losing. I was winning. So I guess I was tilted from the upstuck. I was tilted from the fact that I just couldn't really get in there and play any big pots. But tomorrow's going to be a huge game. And I feel like today was a good ramp up, a good starter, and a good test too for me to play a bigger game and also get my mind right for potential future live streams as well. So that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to work on trying not to get tilted with the card distribution, trying not to get annoyed or frustrated when things might not be going my way. I got to have a good mental mindset and be just straightforward, you know, don't get too high, don't get too low. And yeah, it was an interesting stream. I mean, the only real hand of note, which was pocket kings, when I cold 4-bet and bet the flop, my opponent raised me to 10,000. I shipped it all in for 8,000 more. I don't know what he had. I haven't looked back at the stream. I'm guessing he had a pair. So maybe I could have gotten the last 8,000 if I would have just called, but my thoughts at the time was, hey, it's a 4-bet pot. He put in 10,000. I don't think he's folding for 8K more, but he did. So I don't know. I feel like I played that hand fine, but that's kind of the only real big interesting hand of the night. I mean, I got in there with a little pre-flop jibs and jabs and stuff like that. And, you know, anytime I would try to 3-bet Mariano light, he would 4-bet me. Anytime I would 4-bet, he would 5-bet. One hand the one hand that started my tilt, and it's nobody's fault really, but I think we're playing the Nick game. Mariano raises. Kevin, who is sitting in seat number 1, who is friends with Mariano, who plays on Hustler, he re-raised to 900. I cold 4-bet out of the big blind to, I think, 2,700. And then the action's back on Mariano. And Kevin calls before Mariano has acted, which tells Mariano that Kevin isn't going to go all in or re-raise. He has a middling strength hand. Now, this might not seem like a big deal if you're playing at like a 1-2 no-limit game. But in this game, against a player who's very capable of picking up on that, Mariano obviously realized, well, Kevin doesn't have that good of a hand because he's just calling this 4-bet. He doesn't have aces, he doesn't have kings, he doesn't have queens, he doesn't have ace-king. And Lex could be squeezing light, so Mariano put in a 5-bet with 3-4 suited. Kevin folded, I folded my ace-jack, and that hand really put me on tilt because if Kevin wouldn't have called at a turn, Mariano would most likely never 4-bet or 5-bet 3-4 suited. Maybe I would have lost the pot anyway. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not even mad at anybody. People make mistakes, but that just kind of what started the tilt. So all in all, what I learned from today is I need to have a stronger mental mindset. I need to be stronger up here, and I need to be more level-headed. I just got to let the things go, you know, let stuff go. If I get bluffed, if I bluff and it doesn't work, if I'm not getting any cards, let it go. Next hand, breathe, move on. So that's what I'm going to work on for tomorrow. I have a big game tomorrow, which will be the next game after this. I'm pretty sure some big names are playing. Potentially Doug Polk, Terrace, Mariano, some other guys. It's going to be probably a 50, 100, 200 game. Yeah, it's going to be big. That'll be the next video after this. Please like, comment, subscribe for me and for Rogue. He's sleeping over there. He's tired of me talking. Until next time, I'll see you.